All right, Jesse on fire. Welcome back. So today I was badgering myself, like, what should I cover? And yesterday I did a podcast with Coach Colin, and we ended up talking a lot about UFOs. And I started talking about a couple of these incidents that I just kind of like assume because I know about them, everybody knows about them. And I talked about the Phoenix Lights. Now, one thing that I realize now is not only do not everybody know about the Phoenix Lights, but not everyone, almost no one, has seen the single greatest coverage of that incident ever, which is done by Mouthy Buddha on Dauntless Dialogue. So what we're going to do today, you guys, is we are going to go through this documentary, at least, I think we'll cover the first half of it, and then I'll leave you guys to go watch the rest of it. But this is the incident, the single incident where basically it's like this. If you're interested in the UFO topic, then of course I assume that you want to know the answer for whether or not they're from here, from there, wherever. But also, don't you want to see one? Don't you want to see one? And I want to tell you how badly I want to see one, okay? I want to see them so bad that if I could go back to any point in human history, I would go back to March of 1997 in Phoenix so that I could personally witness the incident that we are going to go through right here. So that is what we're doing. Shout out to Mouthy Buddha, the single greatest documentarian to ever grace the internet. And shout out to Dauntless Dialogue that has every single one of his documentaries on their platform. I have said this before. I will say it again. You should go and subscribe to Dauntless Dialogue and just rip through everything that Mouthy Buddha has ever made because it's all this good. And you know what else he covers besides UFOs? Lasagna-gate. He is the single greatest source of credible information on Lasagna-gate ever, okay? So I'm going to introduce you guys to both Mouthy Buddha and the Phoenix Lights. And if you think you know about the Phoenix Lights, but you've never seen this documentary, you're about to learn a lot more.
Heads, maybe.
So let's do this thing together. Rock and
White
roll.
news, and then it was denied.
It is the most famous UFO sighting in the world.
Reported at 6:55 p.m., a man in Henderson, Nevada witnessed an object in the shape of a V with 6 large lights pass over him from the northwest. 8:15 p.m., former police officer Tom Chavez witnessed a cluster of 5 orange lights, consisting of 4 lights together with a 5th light seemingly trailing the other 4.
They didn't glare. They did not emit like a beam, like a floodlight, like landing light craft lamp. There seemed to be some depth to them.
Calls began to flood police stations and media offices across multiple districts, including Chino Valley, Prescott Valley, Dewey, Cords Junction, Wickenburg, Cave Creek, and many other communities to the north and west of Phoenix. Then, this happened.
Wait, where? There's another one too. Where? Oh, look at that. There's another one. No, we're just excited. We're not. They keep coming. Wait, I see. Whoa, look at them.
I got that one.
But what some misunderstand is this video shows the second event. The majority of sightings actually occurred before this in the state of Nevada and Arizona. The Public Affairs Office at Luke Air Force Base announced that their personnel had investigated these lights, establishing they were flares launched from an A-10 Warthog. But miles of controversy exist over this claim, so much so that 3 years after the sighting, the Arizona National Guard staged a demonstration to quell the claims made from those who kept saying what they saw was not flares. Judge for yourself in this side-by-side comparison. But ultimately,
Here's the deal. Ask yourself why the military would feel obligated to do a demonstration like, okay, guys, we're going to prove it to you. Okay. It is because what actually happened that night was, as you're about to find out, a mile-wide craft flew over the Phoenix Basin on a night where, like, I'm pretty sure the Hale-Bopp comet was going to be seen. And you got to keep in mind also, this is in 1997. Okay. Like, current state world, if people are like, hey, are you going to check out the comet tonight? Everyone's all, I'm going to be watching the new season of Wednesday while I scroll Instagram. Okay. In 1997, no cell phones, no internet. Okay. Like, none of that stuff. So everybody's just kind of like, oh, the Hale-Bopp comet's going on tonight. They go outside and they look up. So everyone saw this craft fly over the Phoenix Basin. And the people who did not see it got called by someone who did. And then everyone was outside looking up when the second thing happened, which is this. Okay. So when you have like an entire multiple county population, all of which are like, hey, the one thing we know for sure is that there's no way humans made this silent mile-wide craft that flew over our house, dead silent, going way too slow for propulsion to have worked. Okay. And so they put so much pressure on the government that they're like, here, let us show you that it's flares. And then it failed. And also, the governor is one of the people who saw the triangle fly over the basin. He's in the fucking Air Force. And he was like, yeah, there's no way that humans made this thing.
Whether we're looking at flares or not holds no bearing on the thousands of sightings that happened previously, reporting a V-shaped craft moving slowly and quietly through the entire state of Arizona. This leads many to claim three possibilities in regards to these lights. One being that they are not flares. Two being if they are flares, it's simply a random coincidence of timing. Or three, someone was likely instructed to do it on purpose in order to provide an explanation for this.
We were telling ourselves not to blink.
It was very close to the ground. It was just like floating over the housetops.
The first thing that struck me is that they were just in a V-shaped formation. Well, it's at night, and guys wouldn't have been flying in a V-shaped formation, in a VIC. We'd call it a VIC. So now I'm looking at 5 lights passing overhead silently at a very slow rate. And it also occurred to me that they were flying too slow to stay in the air if it was an aircraft.
Oh, by the way, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I would appreciate it if you guys would do that. I forgot to say that at the beginning. We're going to handshake it. You guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to put out a lot more of this stuff. Because I'm telling you, let me tell you why I'm doing this. And people think that I'm biting Mouthy Buddha's content. I want to be very clear about this. I've been doing this for 5.5 years. I don't bite people's content. I think that he is literally the most underappreciated creator in the history of the world. And I actually do not think I'm being hyperbolic. The most underappreciated creator ever. He is the best documentarian ever, and no one talks about him because he got kicked off of YouTube for, I don't know, like nothing having to do with UFOs, that's for sure. And it is a very sad state. So I'm going to share some of his content with you guys because I'm going to try to give him as much hype as possible. And then you can send him over to Dauntless Dialogue. You can watch it all.
It must have been around 10-ish. And I'm looking off towards the north. Coming in directly at me are these 3 enormous lights. And they are moving incredibly slow.
When somebody in our group said, oh my gosh, what is that up above? We all looked up at the same time and saw this amazing, huge, dark, silent object.
My emotion was that of just kind of wonderment and trying to figure out, what am I looking at? What am I seeing here?
Purportedly, the craft moved south across the entire state of Arizona. Witnesses claim whatever it was totally quiet.
There was absolutely no sound at all.
Just 3 beautiful lights coming towards us. And it seemed to move effortlessly. Just glided right over.
This was one solid object, one craft, one big, large boomerang.
Everybody that called me.
Look at her. Look under her name. She's the former Phoenix vice mayor, and she had a wild experience with dealing with like the Men in Black after this. By the way, that's at the very end of this video, so I'm probably not going to get all the way there. But she is the one politician who ran up against the Men in Black, and that's a wild story, dude.
Said the same thing. It was huge. It was slow. It was low. It was totally silent. They could see some lights, somewhere between 5 and 9 lights on it at any given time.
Claiming the lights had abnormal characteristics.
It was an orangish amber light, and it was so rich and lustrous, it's almost as if the objects seemed to be comprised of the light itself.
They were more like glowing, gaseous globes.
There's no flaring. They're like a ball. On the video.
Now, 2 things I want to talk about here. Number 1, how they all talk about how it was dead silent. Every single credible sighting that I've ever heard, all of them mention that. And it's one of those things where, like, if you're making a story up, that's the kind of thing that would slip your mind, right? But if you experience something, that's the kind of thing where you just take for granted, like that anytime that you see a created machine that's technology move in your entire life, it makes sound. Always. Always. Even like an electric car, people go, whoa, it's really quiet. It still makes noise, dude. Right? It's still making noise. Not as big as like a internal combustion engine, but it still makes noise. You know, an electric car, any kind of vehicle that's flying, they all make noise. And so you wouldn't think about that unless you experienced it, and it would just break your brain. Like, can you actually imagine looking up at a craft? And like, I've heard so many of these. They got like a craft that is hovering and then just goes and makes no noise. Like zero noise. That's why they all mention it, because if you actually put yourself in their shoes, that would shatter my brain. Like I would just be like, you know. I also hear in other very believable stories where they've come up upon, like in the Rendlesham Forest one, which I'll do next. In the Rendlesham Forest one, they come up on a craft that's in the forest, and they describe the light as being very different, like where they almost as if the light was contained inside of an invisible ball, right? So it's like emitting light. Like if you think about how our lights work, you put light and it just kind of goes blah, right? It doesn't like have some kind, it doesn't look like, you can't control the light once it has been emitted, okay? But I've heard them talk about that in the Rendlesham Forest one, and I've heard them, in this one, they specifically talk about the light. And if you think about that, what that means is that is different technology than we have, right? Like it's emitting light, but it's different technology than we use, which indicates it ain't us.
They flicker, they're white, they're much smaller. But nonetheless, the formations themselves are compelling.
When it got directly over my head, and I mean, I'm talking dead center here, I was right underneath this thing. It was like there was no filament in this thing. They appear to be in a canister. There was light swimming around in this shape or form.
And they weren't beaming down like landing lights. They were just big balls of light, but very pretty.
And the craft was said to be massive, with some gauging it to be more than a mile wide.
We could not see the whole object from front to back, from side to side. It was so big.
I would gauge this object to be several football fields. I mean, like a mile, maybe more than a mile, maybe even 2 miles. It was huge.
I put my hand up to where the nose of the craft was, and I took my other arm out to where the end of the wing was, and it was well over 30 inches. And I said to my wife at the time, I said, that's a mile long.
It was coming over the mountain, and it was like almost as wide as one of the humps. And it was very low.
It's coming across the sky, and as it's moving, it's blocking and unblocking the stars. There is actually a shape.
Like, you know how I always say, like, I'm like, they're telling the truth. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is what I'm talking about. So when you have these guys that go up in front of Congress, we have these land. Yes, we have retrieved crafts. And you're like, not really doing it for me. Okay. You can tell when someone is telling the truth about an experience like this, because it is the most profound experience they've ever had. And when they're talking, you can see it. You can see it. Now, obviously they're telling the truth because there's 10,000 witnesses, but do you know what, like, everything they're describing actually happened. What the fuck is that craft? What is it, dude? It's a mile wide. A mile wide. What on a mile wide that's flying dead silent slowly in the desert? I mean,
the object we saw, if we opened up a newspaper, you could not block out the object that we saw.
It's one of the biggest things I've ever seen that moved like that. I mean, it was just enormous.
There was like a light grid. It was almost dancing to a beat, dim light, almost shadow behind. I wouldn't say that it was intense, but it was definitely profound.
When you look down the street on a hot day in Phoenix, above the street's like, it's really wavy, and you see everything kind of distorted, and that's what it looked like up inside the middle of the craft.
It was just gliding, and then it stopped, and then it, like, the sides retracted a little, and then it was gone.
Just went.
Acceleration to deceleration, it was no noise the whole time.
And not a sound.
See. Now, also in the Rendlesham Forest incident, Mouthy did one on this too, so I'll show you that. These guys walked around a landed craft for 45 minutes. These are military guys who are guarding nuclear weapons. And as they walked around it, they said after 45 minutes, it just went like this, and it like went, and like got about 10 feet off the ground and then just went. And they said they would have, if they wouldn't have been looking, if they would have blinked, they would have thought it disappeared, but it shot into space at like lightning speed. If they blinked, they would have thought it disappeared. That's how fast it went. Okay. And these guys, this thing's a mile wide and it just goes dead silent. Try to imagine. See, that's what I'm saying, dude. Put me back there that night. Give me that, dude. I want to see that fucking thing, dude. I want to see that craft more than, like, I would do anything to be able to see that.
So how about we work together and try to figure out what this thing is?
Even after thousands of calls to city officials from citizens requesting answers of just what happened, no explanation came. Then after a few months, the governor at the time, Fife Simington, finally, on June 19th, made a statement.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please. It's, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Man, they got so mad about that. The people who had been calling were furious about that because they did a press conference. He's the governor. Now, he saw it too. He says, I'm going to be honest with you, the only person I've ever heard talk about seeing this thing that I don't believe is Fife Simington. I can't explain it more than just like, I'm just good at that. Like you look and it's like, you watch how they talk about it, then you watch how he talks about it, and I think he's lying. I think he didn't actually see it, but...
But eventually, he explained why he felt the need to make light of March 13th.
People coming into my office saying this thing is just reaching heights of hysteria and concern. And so 3 of us sort of sat down at the end and decided to try to lighten the mood a little bit.
He then, after being retired for some time, opened up about his experience witnessing the first event.
Now, you tell me. Okay, when you watch this, you tell me if you feel the same way. I think he's making this up.
And I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about.
If you had been here 10 years ago and standing out here and looking up there at the lights and the view, you would have been astounded. You would have been amazed. But that was total bunk. Those I've seen high altitude flares before. I mean, that wasn't, they weren't flares.
And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, oh my gosh, she said she'd look like a ghost.
I still, behind the scenes, tried to investigate it, but I got nowhere.
There were the sightings of the America West plane coming into Sky Harbor, said he could have landed on it.
It was enormous, like an aircraft carrier in the sky. Is that about as close as it gets?
I think that's a fair description.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In your gut, you could just tell it was otherworldly.
What did you see? And I said, well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it.
See? Told you. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but my gut tells me he's making that up. All right, I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to let you guys find the rest of this documentary. You can watch it on BitChute for free, or you can go to Dauntless Dialogue, and then you can watch all of Mouthy's stuff, along with a bunch of other great content. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Love you guys. Bye-bye.